sufficient. There has been a lingering question that many people ask, and I'm sure some of you ask the same question. Is having fortune, a lot of wealth and money, is it a curse or is it a blessing? Many people believe it's a blessing. In fact, some people gingerly attempt to have more money. If you survey people, most of people, probably 99% of them, they tell you that having more money, more fortune is a blessing. Something that the vast majority of people, Democrat, Republican, Muslims, non-Muslims, in the East, in the West, actively seek. Most people actively seek having more wealth. In fact, I know and you know, many people are so obsessed with buying lottery. Every week, I have a friend of mine, he would tell me for last 30 years, every single week, I would spend an average of $20 buying lottery. You know, that's a lot of money. $20 a week times 4, that's $120 at least a month. Then you do the math for 30 years, how much that would be. So there are many people whose dream in life, and probably whose single dream in life, is to be wealthy and to be able to possess, if not billions of dollars, millions of dollars at least. But in the contrary, there are people who may argue that money, wealth, fortune are source of all evil. If you look at the list of crimes committed, not only in the United States, but worldwide, most those crimes are committed mainly because those criminals somehow, directly or indirectly, were seeking more wealth. Why more people, got caught in robbery and theft? Because people those were people seeking more wealth. Why you see many people are very frugal and stingy? Because of their love for their money. So many crimes are committed around the world because of love of wealth. In fact, I was reading the other day in New York Times a story about a couple from Utah, who traveled to Africa, to a country called Botswana. Those couple have a hobby of hunting wild animal. So 2 years ago when they went to Botswana, while hunting for wild animal, the wife got killed. And her husband contacted the U.S. Embassy in Botswana, and they helped him shipping his wife to her body to the United States. Everything went well, but something went wrong 2 years after her death, that someone suspected there could be something wrong. What was that? What was the trigger for the investigation in this particular death? The woman had $1 million insurance policy. So the first thing that her husband did, he claimed the insurance. The second thing he did, immediately after her death, he moved into a new house with his new girlfriend, who were 30 years junior of him. Someone suspected there could be something wrong. They did a new investigation. They exhumed the body, and they found out that there was a murder behind. The man intentionally killed his own wife so he can get the $1 million from the insurance company. So My dear brothers and sisters, many people believe that having too much wealth, too much money, is nothing but a curse, How many guys you know, how many celebrities you know, who ended up in divorce only because the celebrity had so much money and his wife or her husband wanted to share that wealth, and they ended up in divorce. What does Islam say about this? Does Islam consider having too much wealth a blessing or a curse? Islam says it depends. It depends how you manage this wealth. If you manage your wealth wisely, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, wisely, if you manage your wealth logically, if you manage your wealth according to Islamic laws, no, definitely it is a blessing. It's a blessing. Look at how many noble work, benevolent work has been done in this world. It is mainly because of wealth and for channeling wealth into the right channel. This masjid was bought and purchased and maintained through the wealth of some good believers. If you see any charity, a charity will not succeed unless there are people supporting this charity through their wealth. If you see any project successful, it is maintained and basically boosted by wealth. So no doubt, wealth itself is a blessing, but the way we deal with it, the way we spend it, could determine if it ends up as a curse or as a blessing. If man came to Al-Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and he says, Yabna Rasulullah, ibtulitu bihubb dunya. I'm a good man. I'm someone who prays, who fasts, who fear God. But I have one little problem. I love dunya, I love money. I love acquiring money. So, how do I solve this problem? The Imam, before telling him whether this is a good thing or bad thing, before basically lamenting his love for wealth, the Imam asked him a simple question. He says, إِذَا أَقْبَلَتْ عَلَيْكَ الدُّنْيَا ماذا تفعل? Say Allah gives you so much money. What do you do with the money Allah gives you? He says, Yabna Rasulullah, I swear, I will feed the poor. I will give my relatives, my poor relatives, I will give them. I will feed the hungry. I will help the orphans. The Imam alayhi salam says, إِذَنْ هَذَا حُبُّ الْآخِرَةِ. If that is your intention of seeking wealth, this is not a bad thing. You are not in love with wealth. You are in love with God, because you're trying through your wealth to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is nothing wrong with that. But however, there is one trick, my dear brothers and sisters. Many of those who say, if I win the lottery, I will give $1 million to the poor, most of them are not telling you the truth. Not because they are lying. No, they don't lie. They really mean it. But the minute the money is in their hand, it's magic. It's a magic. They will not hold the same views. Trust me. Money has such lure, has such magic on people that the minute I can talk for so many hours about, not being a slave of money. But if you want to know if I'm honest or not, run a test. Give me some money and see if I'm going to go crazy or not. A guy who won the lottery one time, $60 million, he was very poor. His family wanted to break the news to him, but gradually, so he does not get shocked. They hired a psychologist so he would basically, break the news gradually. So the psychologist is telling this guy who won the lottery, $60 million, let me ask you, if you one day win the lottery, $60 million, what do you do with it? Immediately, the guy said, I will give you half of it. I will give you $30 million. The psychologist says, Ihlif, say wallah. He says, wallah. When he said wallah, the psychologist had a heart attack and he died. I don't know if this is a real story or not, but it is a reality, my dear brothers and sisters. Trust me, it's a reality. We talk about if I get the whole money of this world, I will give it away, but the minute is in my hand, I will find 1,000 excuse not to give it away. So a lady came to me a while ago and she said, Sayyid, I lost $5,000. And I nadartum la Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. So I made a pledge, if I find them, I will give them to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. I said, so what happened? She says, but recently I found the money, 5,000. Am I still obligated to give them to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? I said, haram Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. When you don't have the money, he is the beneficiary. But when you get the money, you forget about Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. This is the human nature, my dear brothers and sisters. So Islam says it depends how you spend this wealth. If you spend this wealth in the right way, if you take care of your family needs, if you take care of your own needs, if you share part of your wealth with the poor, with the needy, and you utilize your wealth for the benefit of your community and your society, this is a blessing. This is indeed a blessing. But 99% of people don't do that. Don't do that. Once they do acquire the money, then the shaitan comes in. The shaitan tells them, he starts whispering. The shaitan is very smart, by the way, extremely shrewd. He does not strike any time. He strikes at the critical time. When I'm poor, the shaitan will never come to me. He has no business with me. But the minute I get a good chunk of wealth, the shaitan will come to me. If I'm about to give some money to the poor, why you want to give it to the poor? Your kids need it. Your kids are going to college tomorrow. They need this money. What about your retirement? You want to give away all your money and stay poor and broke? You're going to need this money in 10, 20 years when you retire. And you need this money before anybody else. That's how the shaitan whispers. That's how the shaitan manipulates, by sugarcoating to us, by discouraging us from doing the right thing, but through using logical words that appeal to us. Appeal to us. Give it to your children. Give it to your grandchildren. They need this money. What if the economy goes down in this country? You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years in America. Our economy has not been stable. So keep it for yourself. Or the shaitan may tell you, why? If you want to give, you can give tomorrow. You can give a year from now. Keep the money right now. Find the best interest rate in any bank. At least get some more benefit from your wealth. And inshallah, time will come for you to give away. If not now, inshallah, in 50 years when you go to Hajj, you will make sure you will pay your khums and zakah and you will be fine. And some people take that bite. So, what are the downsides of having too much wealth? According to the Quran, the first downside is الطغيان. إن الإنسان لا يطغى أن رآه استغنى. Most people, once they find themselves wealthy, capable, they go extravagant. They go corrupt. They transgress. How? I go and gamble. I go and gamble. You know how many people, how many families have been broken and damaged because of gambling? Gambling is a disease. And if you think that it is a disease that is confined within the large U.S. society, not in our community, you're definitely wrong. Many people in our community are addicted to gambling. This money that is supposed to be used for a good cause, to feed a hungry, to clothe a naked, to help someone who is desperate, goes for nothing. He goes and gambles every week. And by the way, gambling is addictive. It's addictive. That's one reason that Islam made it haram. Because gamblers get hooked up through gambling. They do it once, then they are hooked up. And if they win once, they think they will win every time. You will not win every time. Out of each 100 attempts, maybe you win once, but you lose 99 times. But this is what they don't see. Due to the urge and the greed and the lure of money, they continue to pursue this habit of gambling, and they end up losing and losing and losing till they one day become broke. They become bankrupt. So the first thing, the first problem with having too much wealth is most people become corrupt because of money. Number two, the other downside for having too much money, again, this is not a general situation, but it is a situation that applies to, I can say, 98% of people. Obviously, there are always the 2% who stand out, who will never be affected by money, by wealth, who hold such strong faith that no money on earth can change their personality and can weaken them. But there are the minority, very small minority of people whose personality, their iman, their faith, their strong will overwhelm any other weakness. But most people, 98% of people, have this weakness. That is their weak spot. When they are introduced to a vast amount of wealth, they change. They change. So the second downside for having too much wealth is being arrogant. Being arrogant. You see many wealthy people, extremely wealthy people, are arrogant. Why? This is the baggage having too much wealth brings. A man, you may have heard this story before. A man who was extremely wealthy was sitting next to the Prophet when another guy came and sat next to him. The other guy was poor. The wealthy guy physically gathered himself, so there is no physical, contact between them. The view struck the Prophet, and he was very offended. The Prophet looked at the wealthy guy and says, "Why did you do that? Why did you gather yourself as if it's filth, as if it's waste being placed next to you? Why did you do that? This is an insult." The man, being embarrassed with his action, he told the Prophet, "Ya Rasulullah, I made a big mistake. I know I insulted my fellow Muslims, so I'm really sorry for this." And then he says, "Ya Rasulullah, I know I made a big mistake, and in order for me to mitigate my mistake, I'm willing to give half of my wealth to this poor guy." The Prophet turns to the poor guy and he says, "Is that okay with you? He's offering you half of his wealth for the insult he did to you." The poor says, no, Ya Rasulullah. No, I'm not going to take it. Why? You want more? He says, no, Ya Rasulullah, I want 0. No, I don't want. Why? He's giving you half of his wealth. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I'm afraid if I accept his wealth, I will act like him. I'll become like him, arrogant like him. I don't want to be arrogant. I would rather be humble and poor rather than wealthy and arrogant. Many wealthy people act arrogantly. And they think they are from the chosen people. They mistakenly think Allah loves them, and that's why He gave them so much money. If Allah didn't love me, why He would give me that much money? No, that's not a sign of love. That's a sign of test. Allah is testing you, not because He loves you. Many people take it as a sign of love. Allah chose me. Allah favored me over other people. No, that's not true. Allah gave you to test you, to see if you remain humble or you are going to change. Allah is testing us. Every one of us is subject to some kind of test. Some people are tested through their health. Some people are tested through their wealth. He gives you a lot of wealth. Show me how you are going to act. Are you still going to be that mu'min, that committed Muslim? Are you going to be that person who will pay his dues? Are you? Okay, if that's the case, God bless you. But trust me, many people do not do that. So, that's number 2. Number 3, the other downside of having too much wealth is bukhul. Bukhul, being frugal. Many people become stingy once they have so much money. So much wealth, it brings with it stinginess. That's why most, again, I say most, I underline the word most, because there are always wealthy people who are extremely generous. We know some of them in our community. But the vast majority of people who acquire wealth are stingy. يقول الإمام الرضا عليه السلام. الإمام الرضا عليه السلام says لا يجتمع المال إلا بخصال خمس. He says every time you see, not every time, most times that you see there is a vast wealth, you need to know that this wealth has been acquired but by 5 vices. ببخل شديد. The person who accumulated this wealth was extremely bakhil, stingy. وَأَمَلٍ طَوِيل. He had a long hope. You know, sometimes to be hopeful is a good thing, my dear brothers and sisters. But to be too hopeful is not good. To be ambitious is a good thing. But to be too ambitious is not a good thing. To have a hope that I will live in this life and I will do good, that's a good thing. But to have a long hope that makes me think I'm here on this dunya forever, I'm not going to die soon. At least 100 years, at least 200 years. That's dangerous. That's very dangerous. If I train myself to think I'm going to be here on permanent visa, not temporary visa on this earth, this will distract me from my main role and responsibility of being a good citizen, a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This will encourage in me building false hopes that I begin to think that since I'm staying here forever, let me then do all my investment in this life. And I forget all about akhirah. So another problem is وَأَمَلٍ طَوِيل وَحِرْصٍ غَالِب, being very diligent, وَقَطِيعَةِ رَحِمٍ. You know, most wealthy people, if you check their relationship with their family members, they don't have good relationship. You know why? Because they fight over money. They fight over assets. I know some people. I know personally a guy. He was an extremely good guy, but he was wealthy. But when he died, the day he died, his children, he had 4 sons, they started fighting. They did not even attend the funeral for their father because they were fighting over the assets. So, sometimes having too much wealth may lead into terrible relationship between members of the same family, between a brother and a sister, between those heirs who each claim that I need to take more. You know, I can't say, but you know some stories in our own community. When the father passed away and he left a big chunk of wealth, his children were fighting. One sister told me, since my father died 2 years ago, our family never gathered again, never met. We used to meet every single week as one family in a family gathering at my parents' house. Since my father died, we never met anymore. I said, why? She says, because my brothers are fighting over the assets of my brothers are fighting over my father's assets. So, وَقَطِيعَةِ رَحِمٍ وَإِيثَارِ الدُّنْيَا. And the fifth vice coming with having too much money is some people who choose dunya over our akhirah. Investing in this dunya and completely overlooking our akhirah. So, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that. So we said there are three downsides for having too much wealth: bukhul, stinginess; arrogance; corruption; and finally, nisyan al-akhirah. When I have too much money, I forget about akhirah. I completely forget about akhirah. I want to share this story with you. A few years ago, probably over 10 years ago, one of my friends came and he said, Sayyid, a cousin of mine is sick. He has cancer. Doctors told him he has only few weeks to live. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? He said, Sayyid, this guy, my cousin, has so much wealth and he has not written any wasiyah, any will. And if he dies tomorrow with no wasiyah, no will, there will be a big fight in the family. I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? He says, Sayyid, can you go with me? I take you to visit him and you help him write with his wasiyah. I said, okay, let's go. We went. The man was 76, 77-year-old. The minute I sat, I greeted him by saying, Kifak Hajj? How are you, Hajj? He says, Ana mish Hajj. I said, why? Why you're not Hajj? He says, it didn't work for me. A 77-year-old guy who is wealthy, but he never been to Hajj. Anyway, so I sat, and for a half an hour, we're talking, and I am waiting for the guy to ask me to write the wasiyah, but he didn't. So I didn't know what to do. I looked at my friend, I said, the guy doesn't want a wasiyah. He doesn't want to write a wasiyah. So my friend told me, Sayyid, you tell him, you suggest that he need to write a wasiyah. So I turned to him, I said, Abu Flan, you know, الحياة فيها موت وحياة. So I would recommend you write your wasiyah. I would recommend you write a wasi. God is my witness. He looked at me in my face and he says, say it. Don't bother yourself. Inshallah, when I get better, I will come to your office and I will ask you to write my wasi. I felt very awkward because I said to myself, I am asking this guy to write his wasiyah and he may think I'm a beneficiary. I'm not a beneficiary. I'm trying just to help him do his business. So if he doesn't want to write his wasiyah, then, excuse my language, I didn't say that to him. I'm saying this to you. I said in my heart, if he doesn't want to, then to hell with him. So what? I mean, he doesn't want me to write the wasiyah, so why am I imposing myself on him? I looked at my friend and I said to my friend, let's go, let's leave. Because this person, this guy may think I'm expecting something out of his wasiyah when I had zero interest in his wasiyah. I left. It was Tuesday in the afternoon. Wednesday at 8 a.m., my friend called me and he says, Sayyid, sahibna atak umrah. He died. Not even a day after. Many people forget their akhirah. They forget that there is death waiting for them. They forget that one day they have to leave this money they have accumulated and kept so dear to their heart. This wealth that they cherish a lot. They forget that one day they will have to leave it behind. They have to leave it behind and go naked, taking nothing with you other than your kafan. The most extravagant kafan in Iraq is not more than $10, my dear brothers and sisters. Trust me. Najaf is the place where people buy the best kafan with dua al-jawshan on it. If someone in Dearborn sold you a kafan with more than $10, they ripped you off. Trust me. The best kafan in Iraq, in Najaf, worth $10 only. That's the only thing we take. That's the only piece of this dunya we take with us. Our kafan. No money. No credit card. No crypto. Nothing. We will not take anything with us. Isn't that a fact? But why people forget this? Nisyan al-akhirah. They forget. Once I have too much money, the fact that I have too much money makes me forget that fact and ignore it completely. I conclude with this telling story. A man, a wealthy man who was known to be very stingy. He was about to die. He told his very good wife that if I die, I want you to put all my money with me in the casket. So it was during his funeral, people were very intrigued and curious to know how is she going to do that? She is a good wife. She has been very devoted all her life. But at the same time, it is a form of insanity to put all the money in the casket. So before closing the casket, they saw this lady having an envelope in her hand, inserting in the casket, and then closing the casket. They asked her, what was that? She says, I put all his money in one account, and I wrote him a check, and I put the check. If he can cash the check, he can do that. And I did my part. I did my part. He asked me to put all the money, I did. So let him go and cash the check. Can he? Can we cash the check after we leave? Even if we have it as a cash, can we take it with us? We can't. Here in the US, if you have over 10,000, they stop you at the border, in this border. But in the other border, when we leave this dunya, not 10,000. You cannot take $10 with you. Not 10,000. $10 I am not allowed to take with me. Allahumma اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك قاضي الحاجات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات ولشفاء مرضانا وقضاء حوائجنا نقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة، تسبقها الصلاة على